Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is Santosh sir, and in this video I'll be discussing the solution of terminal end examination June 2022 of IBO-01, and the name of the subject is International Business Environment. And let's see what was the question paper and how we can find the solution of the questions. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Actually, the question paper is divided into two parts. One is part A and the other is part B. In part A, we have the first question, comment on any four of the following, as you can see on the screen. And the first is, the international economy is fast turning into a borderless global village. Now, basically, before we start the solution, let me tell you to all the MCOM students that, you will not get direct questions, because you will get all indirect questions. So it is very important for you to understand the question so that you can devise the proper solution of that. Now suppose in this question, how international economy is turning into a borderless global village. More or less this question revolves around globalization, that the whole world is coming or becoming a single village, okay, a borderless global village. So what are the factors that makes the whole world as a global village? Let's try to understand. First, you can write the definition of this, like global village refers to the entire world becoming more interconnected as a result of new technology, communication and media throughout the world, right? And basically, from this definition you can get a lot of factors which makes it a global village. Like first, rise of technology. Due to technology, the world has become smaller, right? We can talk to anyone, we can message, we can mail, so there are a lot of medias. Then globalization, because this globalization is almost, it has been advocated by almost all the nations. So this is one important factor that contributes to making the world a global village. Then social media. There are a lot of social medias like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, etc. So all these, the people are all more or less, they have an account in this social media through which they can connect to their friends and relatives all over the world. And the world has become smaller due to these factors. And the next one is, digital home. People use technology to fit into digital community which they are not physically connected but they are mentally connected. Each social media acts as a digital home for the people. So like this you can write your solution. The second question is, like international capital flows, international labor migration provides an added gains to the transacting countries. Like capital flows, capital moves from one country to another, people investment in other countries, we know about that. But what happens when the workers migrate from one country to another for doing jobs? So how that is advantageous to both the countries? So I have written these points like more skills, exchange of culture, expansion of international trade, globalization and development of domestic country. More skills, that means in developing countries we have seen that the workers are more or less they are skilled, they are very much skilled, and even they accept jobs at a very low wage rate. So the transacting countries can get good labor force at a very cheaper price. Then exchange of culture, when people move from one country to another, there is an exchange of culture. It results in expansion of international trade due to more production of goods and services. Obviously all these things leads to globalization, and when the domestic workers travel to foreign countries for work, that earns foreign exchange for the domestic country. So like this you can expand all these points, you can write more about this. And the third comment is, growing foreign exchange reserves are not always an index of good health of an economy. That means only growing foreign exchange reserves, that means only when a country accumulates a lot of foreign exchange from exports or from migration of people or from tourists. So that is always not necessary that that's a good health for the country, for the economic health of the country. So that is not true, because always the economy must have economic growth and economic development. So both the parts of economy should be well developed to call it a developed economy. So I have written a small paragraph on this. Like, as we know, a country earns foreign exchange due to migration of workers to other countries, export of goods and services, visits by foreign tourists. So all these activities lead to earning of foreign exchange by the domestic country. But economic growth refers to the rise of per capita income of the country only. And on the other hand, economic development is a very broad concept. It refers to the rise in per capita income along with decrease in unemployment, poverty, illiteracy, infant mortality, and like that. So therefore, only economic growth will not work for a country. It must also develop. The fourth question is, culture is pervasive in all marketing activities. Pervasive means, uniform. It is applied. Culture is used in all the marketing activities. We know what is marketing and how culture plays an important role in this. Let's try to find the solution. I have written here, like, culture values a society. The values of a society tells us like what is acceptable and what is not. Okay, so values are very important, and a company, before it starts marketing activities, it must understand the values of a society. Then cultural values can vary within a country. Different countries, different states, if there are a lot of states in a country, and different states have different values, different culture, different traditions, different languages. So the marketing manager should take into account all these things. Then every society has certain symbols and symbolism. So all these things also should be taken care of by the marketing manager. And rituals roles. Rituals are the the patterns of behavior that are learned and reported, and they play an important role when at the time of birth, marriages, graduations, funerals, cultural life, so like that. So a company must also understand all these rituals role. Okay, friends, the next question is zero trade sum game or positive sum game? Little bit very tricky question, and a lot of candidates, they get easily confused. Is trade zero sum game? So what is this all about? A zero sum game is a situation where one party loses and the other party wins, and the net change in wealth is zero. Okay, so whenever there is any transaction, so it is obvious that the amount of money that is lost by one party, the value will be gained by the other party. So therefore we can say that trade is a zero sum game, and most of the transactions are non-zero sums game, because the end result can be beneficial to both the parties. And a positive sum game is where the net result is greater than zero. So basically, this concept was first identified by Adam Smith. You must have heard this economist name. बहुत ही important और बहुत ही पुराने economist हैं Adam Smith. 11-12 में आप लोगों ने जरूर इसके बारे में पढ़ा होगा. So this was the concept he developed, and he said that positive sum game, imports are good for an economy. They help consumers to lower the prices, they increase the variety of goods and services, they provide necessary inputs for the form of production, so like that. And countries that have deliberately cut themselves off from trade have always suffered. Those countries which are not doing trade with foreign countries, so they are always losers. And like this you can define all the points. Let's move on to the next question. In the contemporary world, developed countries are more and more inclined to use non-tariff barriers. Friends, I always insist on this question in my previous videos also, that tariff and barrier and non-tariff barriers दोनों ही बहुत ही important question है. They always strike in the exams. So developed countries, they are more inclined to non-tariff barriers by they use non-tariff barriers. Why? So this is the question, and let's see the solution. Non-tariff barriers refers to any measures other than custom tariffs that regulate imports and exports into a country. And a few common examples of non-tariff barriers include licenses, quotas, foreign exchange restrictions, and custom duties. So all these are imposed by developed countries. They prefer non-tariff barriers rather than tariff barriers. And why they use these non-tariff barriers? Basically to protect the domestic industries of the country. That may be one of the economic strategy, and to protect the weak industries of the country. So like this you can write, you can expand, you can write some more sentences if your concept is clear. Let's move on to part B. Here actually the question is answer any four questions, 20 marks each. Let's see the first question. Critically examine the Ricardian theory of international trade. In my previous video also I have explained this theory of Ricardian. Let me again explain this. David Ricardo was a British economist, and today, among other trade theories, the widely known Ricardian model of comparative advantage. Actually, डेविड रिकार्डो की जो थ्योरी है उसको हम लोग कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज थ्योरी भी बोल सकते हैं. वाई, क्यों बोल सकते हैं? लेट्स ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट. लेकिन रिकार्डियन ने ये थ्योरी को डेवलप करने के पहले ही ट्राई टू आंसर दिस 5 क्वेश्चंस कि वाई इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड टेक्स प्लेस between 2 or more countries. Firstly, it is due to the differences in technology. It may be differences in the resources endowments, may be differences in demand, presence of economies of large scale, and presence of government policies. So due to all these factors, international trade takes place between 2 countries, right? Okay, now this is the model, the Ricardian model of comparative advantage theory. The first point is fully employ all resources worldwide, allocate these resources within countries to each country's comparative advantage industries, allow the countries to trade freely, and trade based on comparative advantage can make everyone in both the countries better off after trade. Superior technology in developed countries need not imply that industries are less developed in developing countries, and firms in the developed countries can sometimes compete in international market when foreign firms pay their workers much lower wages. So these are the few the points of Ricardian model of trade theory. Let's see basic assumptions of this theory. Every theory has some assumptions, right? So Ricardian also assumed that there is perfect competition in the market. There are only 2 countries involved in the transaction, and there are only 2 goods produced, and there is only one factor of production, that is labor, and there is general equilibrium. That means there is circular flow of money between the households, laborers, and the firm, right? Basically, this theory is purely based on economics. Let's see the limitations of this model. It is very simple, and it is hardly it is practical, because in real world almost the countries, there are no such countries who only produce 2 goods. ठीक है, बहुत सारी कंट्रीज हैं, बहुत सारे गुड्स बनाती हैं. So it is very difficult to have a comparative advantage of that. Then this theory is faulty. There are mistakes in this theory. Opportunity cost between the goods are unlikely to be constant. But Ricardian assumed that the opportunity cost between the goods are constant. Opportunity cost means the cost incurred to manufacture one commodity by sacrificing the other commodity. So that is called opportunity cost. And this theory is also unreasonable. So like this Ricardian limitations are also there. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. how do social, cultural, and political environment influence international business? Discuss with suitable examples. So, in this question, we have to write the social, cultural, and political environment, their elements, and how they affect international business. So, these are all social, cultural variables or elements that affect the international trade. In the previous videos, also, I have discussed about this, like culture, then language, because it is social, cultural, that means everything that are present in the society. Then we have religion, literacy, customer preference, social class, and family. So, all these are social cultural factors which directly influence the business activity. Let's see the political factors. Political factors generally they are concerned with government policies, and the first one is the tax and economic policies of the country, the political stability. If there are frequent elections or any any type of war or any such misunderstandings between the center and state, so that creates a problem. Then foreign trade regulations, like country के foreign trade regulations कैसे हैं, custom duty कितनी है, tariffs कितने हैं, and employment laws. कोई भी country के employment laws कैसे हैं, how the workers are paid. So like this. Okay. Let's the next question. Question number 4. इसके दो पार्ट है. First part is what do you mean by regional economic groupings (REG)? And in recent times, despite multilateralism, there is a tendency to have regional groupings. Explain with regions. I have already discussed this question in the previous video also. And let me brief you this. Regional economic grouping, as the name implies, एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन में जो कंट्रीज होती हैं, जैसे सपोज साउथ ईस्ट एशिया, ये एक रीजन है एशिया का, एंड यहाँ पे जितनी भी कंट्रीज हैं दे हैव फॉर्म्ड एन एसोसिएशन, so that is called REG. So it is an association between two or more countries that lies in a particular region to have international trade without any restrictions. Okay, and very good examples of these type of associations are European Union, then Asian Association of Southeast Asian Nations, so like that. And let's see the different types of groupings. First one is preferential trade areas, then free trade areas, custom union, common markets, and monetary union. So all these are different forms or the different the areas where these groupings can work. Okay, let's see the second part of question number 4. Discuss the impact of REG. इसके impact क्या हो सकते हैं वर्ल्ड ट्रेड पे? बेसिकली ट्रेड डाइवर्शन हो सकता है, ट्रेड क्रिएशन हो सकता है, कंपटीशन हो सकती है, इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल हो सकता है, एंड रिडक्शन इन मार्केटिंग कॉस्ट. तो ये पॉइंट्स को आपको एक्सप्लेन करना है. ओके, फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट भी हो सकते हैं. ओके, लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 पार्ट ए. Distinguish between tariff and non-tariff barriers. Tariff barriers, they are the duties and taxes imposed on the imported goods, and these are all quantitative exchange control restrictions on the imported goods. Tariff barriers directly affect the price of goods and services, and non-tariff barriers they affect the quantity of goods and services. So ये बहुत important point है. And tariff barriers are indirect restrictions, whereas non-tariff are direct restrictions. So like this. Now different types of non-tariff barriers like import quotas, then we have requirement of different type of licenses, then standards set for quality of goods, custom regulations, export restrictions and bans, export subsidies, preferential treatment through trading blocks, health and sanitary requirements. So like this. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 5 part B. Explain the mechanism through which such barriers work. How these non-tariff barriers work. And basically the countries commonly use non-tariff barriers in international trade basically developed economies. And decision about when to impose these barriers are influenced by the political alliances of the country. And in general, any barrier to international trade, including tariff and non-tariff barriers, influence the global economy because it limits the functions of the free market. And countries can use non-tariff barriers in place of conventional tariff barriers. These are better non-tariff barriers, and tariff are the most important common type of trade barriers. And as far as possible, these barriers should be removed so that international trade can take place smoothly. Okay. The next part of this question number 5 is, why do these barriers fail to work at times? कभी कभी ये बैरियर्स फेल हो जाते हैं कंट्री के लिए, तो ऐसा कैसे होता है? सो टैरिफ्स आर द ड्यूटीज ऑन इंपोर्ट्स इम्पोज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट टू रेज रेवेन्यू, टू प्रोटेक्ट द डोमेस्टिक इंडस्ट्रीज और टू एक्सर्ट पॉलिटिकल लेवरेज ओवर अदर कंट्रीज. तो ये बेसिकली ये 3 रीज़न हो सकते हैं फॉर दिस बैरियर्स टू फेल. And tariff often result in unwanted side effects such as higher consumer prices of goods and services. So this is one side effect, the result. Then we have tariff have a long and continuous history, and the debate over whether they are represent good or bad policy that depends on the country. So like this you can explain these points. Okay. The next question is, explain the factors causing instability in the prices of commodities in the international market. इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में कमोडिटीज़ की प्राइसेस स्टेबल क्यों नहीं है? दिस इज द क्वेश्चन. एंड बेसिकली ये कमोडिटीज़ की प्राइसेस दे ऑलवेज चेंजेस. व्हाई इट हैपन्स? इट हैपन्स ड्यू टू गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज, इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी ऑफ द कंट्री, then storage and transportation costs or factors, demand and supply of the commodity, weather conditions. If the weather changes, the season changes, the demand also changes. बहुत simple question है. And let's see what is the role of international commodity agreements in stabilizing the prices of agricultural products. Agricultural products, ये generally the most important product because it requires for living. So how can we stabilize the prices of agricultural products? There are international trade commodities agreement, जो बहुत सारी agreement बने हुए हैं, commodity agreement बोलते हैं इनको. And time to time before the World War II कुछ कमोडिटी एग्रीमेंट वर्ल्ड में बने हुए थे, एंड स्टिल देन देयर आर कंटिन्यूस चेंजेस इन दैट. एंड द इंटरनेशनल कमोडिटी एग्रीमेंट्स मे बी इंटरनेशनल कोटा एग्रीमेंट और मल्टीलैटरल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एग्रीमेंट. नाउ व्हाट इज दिस कोटा एग्रीमेंट? कोटा एग्रीमेंट सीक्स टू कीप प्राइसेस विद इन एन एग्रीड बैंड. ओके, एक पर्टिकुलर लिमिट के अंदर प्राइसेस को रखना है. They will not change, they will fluctuate within that band. And in case of multilateral contract, the price changes according to the situation. Okay. Then since 1920 there has been international interest in stabilizing the commodity prices. And after the World War II, the United Nations initiated the idea of international commodity agreements. So let's see a few important agreements which were formed after the World War. These are the agreements: International Rubber Agreement, International Sugar Agreement, International Tin Agreement, International Cocoa Agreement, International Coffee Agreement, Wheat Agreement, and Olive Oil Agreement. So these were the agreements, commodity agreements which were formed with the help of United Nations organization after the World War II. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What are the major issues in the settlement of international trade disputes? And what is the role of ICC, Chamber of Commerce, in this regard? So ये भी मैंने previous video में इसको explain किया है. And basically these are the major problems that are faced by the traders while settling international disputes, like applicable substantive law, then jurisdiction problem, then venue of arbitration, applicable procedure laws, some more disputes are also there, like recognition and enforcement of foreign judgments. So, like this, so there are different types of disputes which are resulted for traders. And let's see the role of ICC. Basically, it is one of the most important association or group which helps to settle international disputes. And let's see the important objectives of ICC. It looks into the problem of corporation, companies, organization. That is obvious. Then it strives for harmonious, restricted, to promote international commerce, trade, and it helps in the global business community through expert and practical service, and it helps to maintain the cooperation among the various organizations, countries, and like that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. And the next question is on short notes. Okay, there are only two short notes you have to write, and choices are there. The first one is you have to write a short note on the forces of globalization. इस टॉपिक को मैंने बहुत बार एक्सप्लेन किया है आपको इन द प्रीवियस वीडियो. अगेन जस्ट आई विल टेल यू द पॉइंट्स जिसको आप इजीली डिस्क्राइब कर सकते हैं. थ्रू ग्लोबलाइजेशन there is a exchange of culture, then improved transportation services, low barriers to trade and investment. So there is complete growth of international trade due to globalization. There is rapid use of technology due to globalization and movement of labor. So like this you can expand all these 5 points for 10 marks question. The next one is implied conditions in the Sale of Goods Act 1930. So basically ये एक्ट बहुत ही पुराना एक्ट है एंड आज़ादी के पहले ये एक्ट बना था इंडिया में एंड स्टिल नाउ इट इज़ एप्लीकेबल. तो ओके आगे बढ़ते हैं. ग्लोबल ट्रेड नेटवर्क दैट इज़ GTPN. ना ये भी मैंने प्रीवियस वीडियो में आपको एक्सप्लेन किया था इसके बारे में, इसके मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, तो आप वहाँ से भी देख सकते हैं इनको. ओके, सो आफ्टर दैट you have to write a short note on trade related intellectual property rights. Now this topic also I have discussed in the previous video, so you can kindly you can watch the videos for complete understanding of this concept. So like this friends, these were a few questions on IBO-01 जो जून 2022 एग्जाम्स में आए थे, एंड इनको आपको अच्छे से रिवाइज करना है. दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड ओवरऑल आपको एक आइडिया हो जाएगा कि यस दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस स्ट्राइक इन द एग्जाम्स. सो दैट विल शेप अप योर प्रिपरेशन फॉर द नेक्स्ट एग्जाम. So thank you very much for watching, and if you want to buy this PDF of my study material, you can message me through my Telegram channel, the link of which will be provided in the description box. So thank you once again. Take care. Goodbye.